Good afternoon. I'm Christine Radarski, and I'm your current APHNYS president, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the 2020 annual meeting. We have a sort of a packed agenda, so we're going to get started. I want to start by thanking the Pomeroy Foundation for sponsoring this year's conference. They've been extremely generous with us and have made it possible for us to bring you this virtual conference online this year. We also want to thank our session sponsors, the Archives Partnership Trust and the Underground Railroad Consortium of New York. So thank you both. And with that, I will pull up our agenda for the meeting. I'm officially calling this meeting to order at 1:05 p.m. on September 22nd. Will Tatum, our secretary, will be taking the minutes for the meeting. All right, is everyone now seeing the PowerPoint screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So, okay. So our agenda for today is going to be a little bit out of order because of the way that we need to handle voting for this year. So what we're going to start with is a little bit of an, oh, I'm sorry. I got a little ahead of myself. We should first review the minutes of last year's meeting. So you should have received a copy of the agenda or a link to the agenda and all of these documents in an email this morning. They were also available through a link in your program. I'm going to quickly put those up on screen. And are you now seeing those minutes?
No.
No, you are not. How about now? Are we seeing the minutes?
Yeah, I'm seeing them.
Okay.
Yes, I got them now.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So is there anyone who, and I can't see you right now because of the way my screen is set up, so I am going to ask you to respond verbally. Are we prepared to approve these minutes, or would you like a few more minutes to review them? No comments, so I'm going to take that as an understanding that folks have reviewed them. Are there any comments or corrections to last year's minutes?
We have a motion to approve from Janine Edmé Hakim.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Tom LeClaire of Clayton will second it.
Thank you. Can we have a verbal all in favor say aye?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Are there any opposed? And is there anybody who wants to abstain from voting on these minutes? Okay. So the minutes are approved as presented. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Are you now seeing the PowerPoint again?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So now, because of the situation and us being unable to be together today, we've had to change the process for voting, and we figured it was simple enough to handle the minutes by a verbal vote in this situation. But for the candidates for election and the budget, we wanted to have a more secure record of the vote for this. And so all of you should have received an email ballot in your box this morning. If you did not, whoops, let me stop the share. And I just want to make sure that you saw what you received. So I am now going to share a different screen. You should have received an email that would have looked like this. So be sure to check your email. This would have come to the email that is registered with your membership in the APHNYS membership database.
I did not get one.
Okay, is that Karen?
I
Yes.
also did not receive one. This is Sandra.
Okay, are your
Yes.
dues paid?
Mine should be.
Mine should be on their way.
Okay, so the way our bylaws are written, unfortunately, we cannot accept a vote if your dues have not been paid. So Ray Lefevre, can you check on both Karen and I believe that was Sandra Bradford?
Karen, I don't have you down as paid. And Sandra, let me look. I don't think I had Sandra either. Oh, come on.
So maybe you can communicate offline. If there is anyone else who is having this same issue, who didn't have a ballot, didn't receive a ballot, or are unsure about your membership status, you can chat with Ray using the chat feature of this meeting, or email him directly. We can take a ballot by email, so that if you did not receive a ballot and think you are a member, go ahead and email your vote to Will Tatum and copy Ray Lefevre in, and we will, or you can send it to publichistoriansnys@gmail.com. And before we tally the votes, we will confirm your membership and either count your vote or not count your vote, depending on what we find.
Christine,
Yes,
I think we need to note that I don't think affiliates are eligible to vote.
that is correct. So you have to be a historian level member to
You
vote.
received a ballot because you're not eligible to vote. You have to be a full member, meaning you're a historian or deputy historian.
That is correct. Thank you, Ray. So for those of you who have received your ballot, you can go to the poll page by clicking in that email, and you will see this. I'm asking everyone, please do not vote right now. We want to allow the process to proceed, which includes the presentation of the candidates, the potential for nominations from the floor, and then the presentation of the proposed 2021 budget and the potential for any amendments to that. So do not vote until we tell you to, and then we will ask you to cast your vote before the end of the meeting.
Christine?
Yes.
I just have a question. When I went in to go to the poll, it asked me for my email again and a password. Is that my email password? And it says Facebook and Google, and
If you
does that come
haven't,
up on everybody's?
if you've never signed in before, you have to reset your password and actually create an account. I had the same issue. So it says right below that, reset your password. You have to reset your password, and then it'll send you an email, and you can actually create a password that hopefully you will remember. But that has been a very common thread this morning. I've gotten a number of emails. So go ahead and reset it. It's just the way this website works. I'm not really sure why.
Okay.
But once you reset it, I was able to log in without a problem.
Okay, but that's an email of, that's a password for APHNYS, right?
Yeah,
is that
that'll
what you're
only
saying?
be a password for your website here.
Okay.
So, and thank you all for bearing with us. As I'll talk about a little later, we are in the process of implementing this new system, which is wonderful, but it is posing some challenges as we learn about it along the way. Are there any other questions about this ballot process at this point in time? Okay, if questions do arise throughout the course of the meeting, please again go ahead and put those into the chat or email any of the executive committee members, and we can help you with that. Thank you. Okay. Then moving on, are you now able to see the PowerPoint screen again?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. So I'm going to put the candidates for election up here, and I'm going to turn the meeting over to Matthew Ertz right now to present the selection of candidates. Matt?
Thanks, Christine. I want to just take a quick moment to answer Kate Fitzpatrick. Yes, if you already voted, it's already done. But please, if you haven't done so already, hold off. I want to take a moment to thank the board, the trustees, and Christine. I have hosted 2 meetings in our region, statewide meetings in our region, and was part of the group that handled this. And this was the biggest undertaking I've ever taken part in with APHNYS. It was really grueling and difficult. And to have a board that was able to do this is very, very special. So I hope you all understand what a great board we currently have. And I'm very excited about the fact that 2 of them are going to remain on, and hopefully we will welcome a new person that is just as excited as we are. With that in mind, Joe Marin, who was the town of Colden historian, stepped down earlier this year. He felt he couldn't do it anymore. We did not at that point find someone to appoint to replace him. So we are instead going to announce Mary Cascone, who is up for election in his place. She would take this seat as of January 1st, 2020. You can read her bio on the screen right there. I have known Mary for since probably 2014, 2015, whenever she came. And she's a spectacular historian, a wonderful researcher, and has graciously joined a couple of committees in the past year, is a wonderful candidate. We also have Mark Slosik, who is the City of Oswego historian, and Babette Huber, who is the Town of Victor historian, who are running for re-election for their second terms. Again, they've both been significant assets to this community. Mark was supposed to be the regional host this year in Oswego, so hopefully he'll be the regional host next year in Oswego, and we don't have to do a digital host again. Keep your fingers crossed. And with that, I will open up. Does anyone want to nominate somebody from the floor?
There being no nominations from the floor, I move that we close nominations. Cliff Patrick.
Thank you, Cliff.
Second,
Say your name.
Kate Fitzpatrick, Town of Atisco.
Thank you. So now, instead of saying all in favor, I encourage you all to go and vote.
Well, hold off.
Oh, hold off.
Hold off on casting that vote because the ballot does include the budget as well.
Okay, so do not listen to me at all. So we're going to go back to Christine.
Actually, we're going now to our finance chair and treasurer, Zach Studenroth. And Zach, if I can find you here, I will. Where is Zach? Zach, do you need sharing capabilities? Okay, I'm trying to find you. Are you? I'm
not sure I know what to do with them, but let's try it out.
Zach, what name are you listed under?
Zach Studenroth. I'm on the screen there. I don't know if you can see me.
Hang on, I'm not finding you. Matt, do you see him?
Going to be way at the bottom.
I see him at the top.
That's.
In this little list, but there's 70 of us. I don't know where I appear amongst that. You got me?
I got you. So I'm making you co-host so you can share. If you have any trouble, just let me know. And okay. I have the documents as well. Oh, there you go. All right.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Zach. You're on the
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe we all have the documents, that being the third quarter income and expense reports and the proposed 2021 budget. So if you've taken the opportunity to print them, perhaps you can refer to them during the course of this. I didn't realize we were on such a tight time frame, Christine, in terms of the voting parameters. And so I've written a report. It should take me about 10 minutes. I hope that's within the schedule. So let me start with the third quarter income and expense reports. And these were prepared through Friday, the 18th, in terms of the actual numbers. First, I'd like to thank my predecessor, Margaret Hadsell, for her excellent work as treasurer and for providing me with the tools that have made my job easier in my first year as treasurer. The organization is financially healthy, and our balance sheets reflect this. As of August 31st, 2020, our checking account stood at $4,262. Our money market account at $84,849 for a total of $89,111 in cash assets, which is more than $2,200 greater than at the beginning of this calendar year. But the impact of COVID-19 is quite evident in the income and expense reports that are now up on the screen. These, as I said, calculated through Friday. The greatest impact on the budget was the cancellation of the live conference and its replacement with this virtual online conference.
Zach, something to your audio. Weird.
Conference, of course, was
Zach, you may have to have someone else present this. You emailed this out to us earlier, correct, to the board?
I have it in front of me if you would like me to read it, Madam President. This is Will Tatum.
All right, Zach, do you want to speak one more time to see if we can hear you again yet or no? Zach?
Go ahead and talk.
Say a sentence.
the sound on my end is
Yeah, you're breaking up on our end. So if you don't mind, Zach, we're going to let Will read your report for you. And then perhaps if your sound isn't any better, then we can use the chat to answer questions afterwards. Okay? All right, Will, go ahead, please.
Certainly, this is the third quarter income expense report submitted by Zach Studenroth, and it covers through September 18th, 2020. Zach begins. First, I'd like to thank my predecessor, Margaret Hadsell, for her excellent work as treasurer and for providing me with the tools and templates that make my job easier in this first year. The organization is financially healthy, and our balance sheet reflects this. As of August 31st, 2020, our checking account stood at $4,262, and our money market account at $84,849 for a total of $89,111 in cash assets, or $2,294 greater than at the beginning of the year. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is evident, however, in the income and expense reports calculated through Friday, September 18th, 2020. The greatest impact on the upper operating budget was the cancellation of the live 2020 annual conference and its replacement with this virtual online conference in response to travel restrictions, social distancing requirements, and projected municipal budgetary shortfalls. Last year's conference, which was budgeted as a break-even event from the standpoint of income and expenses, counted for 56%, or over half of the annual operating budget for 2019. While expenses were incurred this year to deliver the virtual conference free of charge to participants, we were fortunate to have several sponsors defray these costs. A full accounting of conference expenses and sponsorship income will be included in the fourth quarter report. A secondary impact of the global pandemic is a drop in membership dues. As of this writing, membership revenue stands at $6,640 to date. As of the end of the third quarter in 2019, membership dues stood at $11,230, or nearly twice that of this year. Disruptions in local governments and the difficulties associated with sending out membership renewals earlier this year account for much of the disparity. Although it is important for the organization to look for other causes and redouble its efforts to rebuild the membership back to historic levels next year. A final note on this year's operating budget concerns the expenses associated with the organization's website and online capabilities. These costs were projected adequately for 2020. We've successfully transitioned to our new website on Wild Apricot and are currently exploring its many functions. Expenses associated with maintaining the website and with developing digital communications in general have been doubled to $4,000 in the 2021 budget. However, with the expectation that communicating with the membership, hosting virtual meetings, and exploiting other capabilities will exceed prior funding levels. And there is additional commentary offered under the budget heading.
Zach, was there anything more you wanted to add? Yeah, I'm sorry, Zach, you're still breaking up, so you might want to put it in the chat if you have a comment.
I'll type it into the chat.
Are there any questions at this time on the third quarter 2020 income report or expense report?
I'm pulling up the expense report right now.
Proposed 2021 budget is the same as our present year. 2020 is a balanced budget at $34,400.
And so here is the proposed budget that Zach is trying to refer to.
And I can read his commentary on that if you wish.
That would be great. Thank you.
This is, again, Will Tatum reading the report for Treasurer Zach Studenroth on the proposed 2021 budget. Zach begins, the proposed budget for 2021 is balanced and projects both income and expenses at $34,400. This is in line with the proposed budget for this as in the 2020 calendar year. Because of the unusual impact of the epidemic, however, this year's annual income and expenses cannot be used to inform next year's proposed budget. Membership dues, for example, are historically a major source of income, but will drop to about half of the projected $12,500 this year. We are maintaining that projection of $12,500 for 2021. However, because we know the organization has the capability to reach that level, and we intend to redouble our efforts to achieve it. These revenues reflect an active and engaged membership, which is an organizational goal. Like the membership, next year's conference income and expenses are projected at historic levels, as in previous levels, even though it is impossible to predict next year's format. From a budgeting standpoint, the conference is forecast as a break-even event with no significant net impact on the operating budget. And Zach has noted in the chat that there have been some relatively minor changes to budget lines that do not impact the overall amount of the budget. All they do is impact or reflect a consolidation of some hitherto separate budget lines under general headings and an increase in the digital communications budget from $2,000 to $4,000, which essentially reflects the transition of most of the organization's activity to being online. And that is not new money in the budget. That is simply that increase from $2,000 to $4,000 is accounted for by other budget lines being consolidated into digital communications.
And I will note we also reduced the anticipated expenditures on special projects for next year and moved some of that money into digital communications as well. Are there any questions about the proposed budget for 2021? You can type them into the chat or unmute yourself and ask them. Okay, hearing none, I will exercise a motion to approve the budget as presented.
I'll make the motion. That's Barbara Russell.
Seconded, Kate Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. And so you may now begin to cast your ballots using the link that was sent to you via email, and we will proceed with our meeting while you are doing that. Okay, so the next up on our agenda is our annual presentation by our New York State historian, Devin Lander, who will present his State of the State address. So Devin, we are delighted to have you with us, and I will go ahead and spotlight you, and then feel free to share your screen. Welcome, Devin.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Let me try to share. Everybody see that?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for inviting me virtually to speak again. I miss all of you. I wish we could be doing this in person, but I also congratulate you for putting this together. I think, as Matt said, it's a massive undertaking to put a full conference together, but I think you've done a great job, and it seemingly is coming off without many issues, which is impressive. I've had meetings of 4 or 5 people on Zoom that were disasters. So having 70 plus people on Zoom at once is to be commended. So I just want to give, let me see here. Why can't I advance? There we go. So I just want to give some updates as usual as to what's been going on in the Office of State History, as well as some other things that are happening in the state as far as state history and the future. As all of you know, we're dealing with historic times for certain, with the pandemic, with the Black Lives Matter movement and other things throughout the summer and spring. So 2020 has been a challenge in many ways. For example, COVID-19 really stopped everything. We were going along fine this spring. We were holding meetings related to the 250th. We were planning on a robust schedule of in-person events related to that. I was planning on doing another county historians institute, and then the pandemic happens. So as with all of you, the Office of State History, the State Museum, Archives, and Library, we all transitioned to working remotely, and are still on a schedule of part remote, part in person, as the building is not open to the public. And the staff is not allowed to be in all at the same time, so we stagger when we're actually in. I'm home today, mostly because of Zoom requirements. We don't have a good Zoom facility set up yet in the museum. We're working on that, but we all have to share one big board, and it gets a little chaotic, and the deputy commissioner always gets precedent because it's in his office. So one of the things I talked about yesterday, and we talked about in our panel for all of you who attended, was the COVID-19 documentation initiative, which was immediately determined in March or whenever, I guess mid-March, when we were sent home, that OCE needed to put together a team that would work on this initiative, working with our libraries, archives, and museums, to offer resources and information and support, as well as to offer information on documenting the pandemic itself, which is the archives, excuse me, all 3 of the of our agencies are doing. Archives, Library, and Museum are documenting the initiative, or excuse me, in the pandemic in their own way. And I talked more about that yesterday. But this is the website for those who weren't there. It lives on the State Museum website. You can scroll down and find it. There's information about documentation efforts at the regional level, as well as resources and support for organizations, information on reopening, information on the COVID-19 virus itself and how it adheres to different materials, including books and archival materials and objects, how long it lasts, that type of stuff is available on the website. So that was something that was put together, as I said, by the end of March. I was actually the chair of that. So I spent a lot of time working with my colleagues at the library and archives and in the museum on trying to figure out, you know, how do we provide the best type of resource, and how do we facilitate discussions on things like reopening. And what we thought we would do is just act as a conduit of information, because there's so much out there and swirling around, and rather than reinventing the wheel and confusing people, we try to direct people to sites that have useful and accurate information. So you'll see that on the website, as well as we, as that is, and it's evolving. You know, there's a lot going on. We're trying to track the reopening process, especially with museums and libraries around the state, and see how this is going. And it's different, as you know, by region, as well as by institution. So it's quite an undertaking to, and it's unprecedented in any of our lifetimes, to see the entire field shut down like it did, and then try to reopen. And it's kind of staggered, and also with less capacity and social distancing and all of that. And for our own institution, it's been a struggle, really, as Tom Ruller was illustrating earlier today. We've really had to do a lot of physical changes at our own building to try to make it as safe as possible, and it really changes the entire experience, especially in the museum, which was once kind of a free floating. You could go in any direction. You could go through the exhibit in any way you wanted to. Now it's all going to be directed, so that people are flowing in the same direction, and there's more control over space. So all of that is been something that we're working on, and trying to make the changes ourselves and track what's going on in the field. The Office of State History website is still up and running. I'll go to this now, but we are obviously updating material as it comes in. So I encourage all of you, as I do every year, to send any virtual events that you have. Our events calendar is still robust. There's Matt Ertz, who's still our cover person for the website. But as you see with the statewide events, they're all virtual, or the vast majority of them are virtual.
Devin, we're not actually seeing the website. We're still seeing the PowerPoint screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wonder how because on mine it switched.
You may have to unshare your screen and then reshare the correct screen.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. Let's try that.
That's okay. Nobody really wanted to see me.
Can you see it now?
Yes. Okay.
There's Matt. Anyway, the website is similar to what it's been in the past, but we are still hosting any kind of statewide event or any events that you're holding. So please let me know, and we will put them up, virtual or not. Hopefully we can all meet in person. We're still have news articles and items of interest related to the field. We are still posting grants. Our friends at the Pomeroy Foundation are always updating their grant program. So as you can see, we are posting grants, and we have links to not only the initiative, but the New York History Journal, which I'll talk more about, the podcast, which I'll talk more about. But I just wanted to remind you, also, I should remind you that on the website, you can sign up for our monthly newsletter that we send out. Hopefully all of you are getting it. If you're not, please send me an email and let me know, or click on this link on the website to sign up for it. We try to put that out early, if not exactly right at the beginning of every month, and again, share information and events and conferences and other things of interest to the field. I should also note that it is September now, and so we are rapidly running out of 2020, and hopefully 2021 is a much more enjoyable year. But as we get to the end of 2020, it's historian report season. I'm starting to get them trickling in, so thank all of you who are doing those early. But for those of you who have not done them yet, you can click on the form under our resources page at the Office of State History website to do our submit it digitally or virtually over the system, or you can print out. This will also allow you to print out a PDF if you would rather do it that way, and you can still mail it to me. I'll show you my address at the end. But we are, and it's understandable that everybody was on hiatus for several months, so it's understandable if the reports are certainly shorter than normal, or maybe not, as you've been documenting the pandemic in your own locale. So I'm going to try to go back to my PowerPoint. Okay. Can everyone see that? Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yes, it's there. Thanks, Devin.
Okay. All right. Now let's see if I can advance it. One of the things, obviously, that 2020 was the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote at the national level. Obviously, in New York, we celebrated it 3 years ago, but this year we were celebrating it at the national level as it finally, women finally won the right to vote in 1920. And I've been very pleased to see the work of the Women's Rights Alliance of New York State, of which some of you are members and take part in this initiative. But I was able to join a virtual call with the group, boy, it's hard to remember when, but probably at least a month ago, and learn what work that organization is doing. And they're doing a lot. They really have taken up the ball from the state commission, which had its issues, but you know, the Women's Rights Alliance is a loose affiliation of sites and historians and others interested in suffrage history and women's history in general. They are planning a virtual conference. They were supposed to meet in person in Albany next month, but of course, the pandemic stopped that. So they are planning on doing a virtual conference in January. So I encourage all of you who are not involved with this organization to Google their website. There's information on not only what work they're doing, but they also have lists of prominent suffragists and other figures in New York women's history. They're a great resource for those who are doing their own work. And so I encourage you to take a look at what they're doing and take part in their conference if at all possible. New York Minute in History podcast. I've talked about this over the years as well. Very happy to work with Lauren Roberts as my co-host and continue this even during the pandemic. It was different. We were actually recording our parts in our basement or in our houses, at least for me it was the basement, onto our phones, and then WAMC's producer was putting it all together. So we were never able to be in the studio. We were still not able to be in the studio. But surprisingly, it seemed to work well that way, although not as enjoyable as being able to work with each other. But Lauren came up with the idea to do a series on the folklore signs, the Pomeroy folklore signs, legends and lore signs. Shorter episodes because we were, again, doing it in our own homes, recording our parts in our own homes. And so we thought it was, and Lauren thought, and it was a great idea, we all agreed, to highlight those signs and talk about the difference between folklore and history and similarities. And sometimes they come from similar sources, but of course, history has a strong link to primary source and records of that nature, and folklore has less of that. So it was a really interesting project. We were able to do 3 of these during the pandemic. So we're, check them out at the WAMC podcast website. They're downloadable if you haven't listened to them yet. They're enjoyable. We did one on Champy, and we did one on Natty Bumppo, and we did one on the Headless Horseman and the origins of that story. So kind of fun, different types of topics. WAMC is currently looking for funding for more full-length episodes of the podcast. We will be transitioning back to history and maybe some folklore as well, and continue that discussion as we go forward. But right now, it comes down to funding. WAMC needs money to continue producing these, although we work for free. They don't. So we're looking for funding, and hopefully that works out and we can continue this podcast. It has grown in leaps and bounds from what it was when we first started. I'm encouraged to see other people starting podcasts now, other organizations starting them. It's really interesting, and it's a really great way to reach an audience, even during a pandemic, as people are looking for things to listen to and things to do. So always looking forward to hopefully doing more of these. It's been enjoyable, and we do get good feedback too. I've heard from several people for almost every episode. I get somebody reaching out who either has a question or a comment or sometimes a criticism, which is fine. That's history. It's evolving. So that's the podcast continuing. I also want to talk about the New York History Journal. We have an issue coming out. It'll hopefully be out by the end of November or early December. The next issue, our winter issue, which will be a special issue on women's suffrage and women's history in celebration again of the 100th anniversary of suffrage. So keep an eye out for that. The journal is being published twice a year. We have an issue that just came out this summer on the meaning of the American Revolution, in which we partnered with the Institute for Thomas Paine Studies at Iona College on the special issue, and they helped find authors and help put this issue together. So if you're not a subscriber, I encourage you to subscribe. You can follow the Cornell Press website and sign up for the journal. Again, it's a process of getting the word out about the journal. We are growing the subscriptions. It does live on digital platforms like Project Muse and JSTOR and those types of things. But for an organization like Cornell to continue the project, they need to have participation by subscriptions, really. And people using the product. So, I encourage you to look into it. I think it's a good publication. We've increased the public history aspect of the journal. The journal for, decades was an straight academic journal. We continue to have academic articles, but we also have public history features. We have an Artifact New York feature, a Community New York feature. Christine Rodarski wrote one of those for us. We also have a Teach New York feature, which focuses on the teaching of history. And we also do public history reviews. So we do book reviews, but we also do exhibit reviews, film reviews, that type of material as well. So we're really expanding the journal to touch on all aspects of professional history, including public history. So I encourage you to take a look at that and keep an eye out for the special issue. Again, hopefully by the end of November or early December, that issue will be out. And I do want to talk about Revolutionary New York 250, which is the planning initiative that's going on at the state level and at the local level as well, for the commemoration of the 250th of the American Revolution and the entire Revolutionary era, really. So last year we had 4 meetings. Many of you attended those. We had a meeting at Saratoga Battlefield. We had a meeting at Iona College, the Institute for Thomas Paine Studies. We had a meeting at Ganondigan State Historic Site, south of Rochester in Victor, New York. And we had a meeting in New York City at the New York Historical Society. Listening sessions where we talked about our idea for Revolutionary New York, which is really an attempt to commemorate not only the revolution, but the 250 years that have happened since then in this state, and the kind of evolution of the revolutionary ideals and what they meant at the time and what they've evolved to over time, to include a diverse audience and diverse participants in the commemoration, but also to talk about the true history and some of the negative aspects of the revolution that certainly took place in New York and nationally. After those listening sessions, we were planning on doing more this year. We were going to go to Long Island. We were going to go to Buffalo, Fort Niagara, we were hoping, possibly the Southern Tier, but the pandemic happened. So everything was kind of put on hold for that. In the meantime, I put together a working group. It's an unofficial state historians working group. I've asked people from different parts of the history community in different regions to take part. The group has really expanded, and it's an opportunity to bring together stakeholders in the field, but also I bring state agencies to the table. The National Park Service takes part, national heritage areas in the state, so that we can sit down and talk about what we should be doing, what's going on already. There's planning that's already taking place at every level. So we've had our first, we were going to meet earlier in the year, of course, but then the pandemic happened. So we had our first Zoom meeting about a week ago, and went well. It was well attended, and we've had a good discussion, briefed each other on what's happening. Most people, obviously were shut down for the pandemic, so things were on hiatus, but they seem to be happening again. I've actually been in touch with the National Commission more in the last week than I've been in the past probably four or 5 months. So they seem to be getting things together again. In fact, there's a group, a state stakeholders meeting, Zoom meeting tomorrow at 4 that I'm taking part in. So the National Commission is moving forward. There is no commission officially at the state level. Again, I have a working group. It's not a commission. It's not an official, designated organization. There is legislation out there. Assemblywoman Carrie Warner from Saratoga County, represents Saratoga Battlefield, has put in legislation in the Assembly to create a state commission for the 250th. There is no Senate sponsor, and it hasn't, obviously the budgetary issues with the state have been severe. The practicality of it moving this year at all is not going to happen, most likely, possibly next year, but we don't know. But the planning continues. I know the agencies are planning. I know that many organizations are planning, are already talking about it. And the National Commission is formed and doing planning. The reason that a statewide commission is useful or essential in this case is because the National Commission, when and if it gets funding, which they already have some funding, so they expect to get more, but they're going to be dispersing it to the states mostly through the statewide commissions. So they're encouraging states to form a commission. If for no other reason, then that will be the mechanism. So So, stay tuned for that. At least there's some legislation out there. So there's at least one member of the legislature who's thinking about this. We know that there's some county executives that support this initiative. I know in Orange County and Westchester County, there's great levels of support at the county level for the 250th initiatives. So I'm heartened to hear that. But it is understandable too that many people at all levels of government are struggling with the present, and it's hard for people to think about 2025, 2026 when there's a pandemic happening and when there's an economic crisis taking place. So we have to be cognizant of that reality as we're speaking with people and kind of trying to keep the momentum going. But we hope to be doing that, and I plan on having bringing the working group together again, and then probably in the next month or so, breaking the group up into committees so that there can be some focus on different things like a website. We're in talks with I Love New York about the possibility of them hosting a website or creating a website for Revolutionary New York, so that there's a place for anything and everything related to the 250th. So local initiatives, state initiatives, everything can be kind of generated through, and the information can be generated in one site, events, and so on. So we're looking to continue that conversation. That's been a big initiative as we've kind of, slowly emerged from hibernation with the pandemic. So stay tuned with that. I just wanted to brief you all for just a moment here about New York History Day. You've heard me talk about History Day in the past, and many of you are judges and take part in History Day at your regional levels, and I thank you all for that. Many of you may know that this past History Day obviously was happening during the height of the pandemic. The statewide coordination of the day of the competition was really didn't happen. National History Day kind of came in and tried to run a virtual program, which they did do, but participation was way down. Obviously, we were, it was during the height of New York's suffering from the pandemic. So the plan for 2021 is for there to be another virtual competition, not conference. And again, National History Day is facilitating the management of that. We found out over the summer that the Fenimore Art Museum, which had been running New York History Day as NISHA and as the Fenimore for several years as a statewide coordinator, they've decided to stop doing that. They stopped receiving state funding to do History Day. They were receiving some funding from the state. That funding went away, and they've decided to not coordinate History Day anymore. So we are currently looking for a statewide facilitator. National History Day has been active in trying to help find an organization that will take that over. We've facilitated talks. It won't be run, by the State Museum or anything like that, but we host the Capital Region one. We're very intent on the program continuing, looking to find partners that can come together and continue the program. And there is a lot of interest. We've had some very productive conversations within the last week about a not-for-profit taking it over and acting as the statewide coordinator and facilitator. And some funding sources are possibly available from foundations to fund the program. So I will let everyone know as those talks become more clear and the future becomes more clear. But any support any of you can give to History Day, and even if it's just reaching out to your regional coordinator and letting them know that you'd like a program to continue in your region. Many of the regions are not taking part during this next year's virtual program for a variety of reasons, most of them pandemic related. So it's you know, somewhat of a tenuous time for New York History Day. But obviously all those of us who take part in it understand the value and the excitement of a history-focused competition for students, and how important it is for us who work in the field to continue the next generation's interest in history and interest in state history. So that's why I'm so hopeful and trying my best to bring together entities that can help continue this program, because it's vital, essentially. It's vital to the future of our field, really, and in many ways, and also it's vital to the education of these students and their continued interest in history and historic sites and archives and so on. So again, I will report back as those conversations evolve. They're very early in the stage. We had our meeting or phone call a Zoom meeting actually last Thursday. So it was positive, but nothing is set in stone yet. So as soon as that's a reality, I'll help get the word out. And this is how you can contact me. I don't know if I'm running, hopefully I'm not running too far over time. Again, the website, the email is the easiest way. I have a phone that tells me when I get an email, so I can respond usually no matter where I am, or you can always call or write to that mailing address. Thank you again for the invitation and for continuing this conference.
Thank you, Devin.
Thank you.
All right.
I need to stop sharing, right?
Yes, please.
There we go.
Okay.
It should be
excellent.
back in your hands.
All right. Thank you. That was great. It's always good to hear from you, Devin. And I think you'll find many of us here in APHNYS interested in helping to promote National History Day and save that program. As I was just putting in the chat, I am a proud alum of History Day, having competed in Ohio in the 6th and 7th grade and actually made it to states the one year. So
wow.
It was
That's
highly
great.
influential in my own career. And I've been a judge. And I think, as Michelle mentioned earlier, we've been trying to get a program into the Rochester City School District. So keep us posted and let us know what we can do to help. So.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll talk offline, but knowing that you support the program and APHNYS supports the program, I think is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I know several historians who have been involved in it. So wonderful.
Christine, if there's time, there were a couple of questions that came in through the chat for Devin's. One about the Revolutionary New York planning and how to get involved in that.
Yes, please. Michelle, go ahead and read those. And Devin, please feel free to answer those.
So Chris is asking, how does one get invited into Revolutionary New York planning? I would like to be involved. Schenectady was deeply engaged in the war and defending the northern and western frontiers from incursions.
Yeah, I welcome your involvement. So send me an email and I will include you in it. The group, originally the group was intentionally small, but then I realized there's just too many people that are interested in this. So now I kind of say, if you're willing to bring your expertise to the table and your interest to the table and help out with some of the planning and the work that we're kind of thinking about doing, like the website, and there's a committee for kind of the marketing side of, evolving the marketing side of things. If you're willing to do that, please just send me an email and I'll add you to my correspondence list and you'll get an invitation to the next Zoom meeting. Hopefully, I'd like to do one within the next month. I kind of want to keep the momentum going because we were, in isolation for so long and couldn't do much. Yeah, please send me an email and I will add you.
Great. And then the second question was from Donna. She's referring to History Day and the difficulty she's had reaching out to schools unless there's this particular teacher, and overcoming that and getting in touch with the local schools.
Yeah, it's an issue we have at the Capital Region as well. You know, as much as we reach out to schools and try to increase the participation every year in the regional one, you know, sometimes we don't hear back and we have a hard time. And you're right, you usually need a teacher or a media specialist, a librarian, someone within the school that's really interested in the project. I think what's happening now, as you know, again, I don't want to, you know, talk about things before they're happening, but we're deeply engaged right now in conversations with the Social Studies Council, New York State Council on Social Studies, which is social studies teachers. They're, you know, have long supported History Day, or some of them have at least. So there's conversations about how we can bridge that gap with the social studies teachers, and how that organization, which is broken up regionally as well, similar to History Day, which, you know, happens at the regional level. The Social Studies Council is a regionally based organization that meets every year in Albany. So the hope is that they can help us with outreach, that they can help find teachers that are interested, or teachers that are already working on the program can reach out to teachers in their own region about, you know, doing the program. Some places like Long Island, for example, entire school districts make it mandatory, which is why their, you know, History Day program has thousands of students every year. Normally, again, the virtual program is less robust, but going forward, as we can come back to some sort of reality, the hope is that we can work with more of these organizations that hadn't really had a involvement directly with History Day, including APHNYS, going forward. And so, you know, hopefully we can help bridge that gap.
Wonderful. Thank you, Devin. All right, so we are running a little late on time, so I was scheduled to be next on the agenda, but I am going to yield my time, and I'll pick up with whatever time is left at the end of the meeting. So I would like to, at this point, turn the meeting over to Ray Lefevre for our membership committee report. Ray, are you ready for this?
Yes, and can you put the thing up?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, is this what you sent me earlier?
I think so, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Whoops.
I won't take very long because we are short of time, but does give me a chance. First of all, to be honest, I sort of dropped the ball early on in the membership when I took it over from Rosemary Tucker, and we were transferring systems, and then of course there was the pandemic. So the number of excuses, but I do apologize for the fact that a lot of you did not get renewal notifications, and a number of you told me that your government wasn't going to pay till they actually had a notification. So I'm particularly grateful that when we finally sent out a reminder notice, that so many of you did respond, and we more than doubled our membership since the beginning of August. So, and since I created this report that at some point Christine will be putting up,
right now.
We are up to 234 members. Now that's like almost half of what we had. If you can see now on your screen, it says 219, but we've gotten 15 more since I did this report. And the issue that we are running into, of course, you know, we certainly can very much blame the pandemic. A number of local government historians have said that their budgets have been slashed or even been eliminated, and they're facing serious budget cuts. Some historians have gone ahead and renewed their membership with their own money, which we are really grateful for. We appreciate your continuing support of APHNYS. Now, when you look at the numbers involving the issues with email and also just the numbers by region, I really, over the course of the winter, I'm hoping I can get those massaged a little more accurately. We've noted, for instance, that there are 188 local governments that have not named a historian, and So it skews the numbers here a little bit because, you know, they're not going to be an APHNYS member if they don't have a historian. And then we've also, you know, over the years, we've been told there's some governments have historians who basically are an appointed name and that's about it. So, but anyway, I'm hoping over the course of the winter to make these numbers make a little bit more sense. We are really encouraging you to, you know, for governments that don't have emails, please join us in the 21st century and get an email. It would really be helpful. Our system for renewals next year is going to be much more organized, and we can take your renewal via credit card. So we're hoping that over the course of the rest of this year, because people are still signing up, and as we start doing the renewals in November and going into next year, that we will get our numbers back up closer to what we had. We had 400 back in 2019. So that's pretty much my report.
Excellent. Thank you, Ray. Are there any questions about Ray's report? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. And I've asked Mark Slosik and Lauren Roberts to give an update on the conference for next year. So I will highlight.
Real quick, we did have a question, Christine.
Oh, sure. Oh,
we technically had two. Ray, Mary Ellen,
I noted that one. I will be fixing that.
Okay. And Cheryl Longyear asked, how do we encourage local governments to appoint a historian? Well, that isn't the $1 million question.
Did you go to my session yesterday? No, and I'm not trying to be flippant, but it's really hard. And so I think since these have all been recorded, if you didn't go to yesterday's session, we do talk about what it is that a local government historian can do, not only for the community, but there's stuff they can do for the government. And I think you have to just make them aware of that. And we've all got examples of where our local governments have come to us because all of a sudden they have a situation where they need the history, they need the background of something. And sometimes when the historian's done, they've ended up saving the government money. So there are, you know, you can say it's the law, but yeah, they're going to, you know, there's no SWAT team to come in to fix that. So yeah, I would say talk to other historians around that government. If you know of other local government historians, talk to them, pick their brains. Might give you some ideas.
excellent. If there are no other questions, we'll move on to Mark now. Mark Slosik.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, at the conference last year, we made a decision to have Region 8 host the conference, and we made, Christine and I made arrangements to have it at the Lake Ontario Events Center. It's a hotel that's right at the mouth of the Oswego River, overlooks the river and the harbor. It's very scenic. We locally, we wanted to emphasize Fort Ontario. Fort Ontario has been nominated to become a national park. Safe Haven, which is also on the Fort Ontario site. It's the only Holocaust refuge in the United States. So we were going to focus on that a little bit. We are also becoming part of National Marine Sanctuary. We've been nominated for that, and we hope in the next few years to become part of the sanctuary system. So that would be part of our focus too. So we're putting together some nice events that emphasize progress Oswego's making and the history of the city. And needless to say, somewhere around in April, the committee said that we were going to cut our public events short this year. So we made arrangements with the event center to hold it next year in September. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, and hopefully they'll find a vaccine or something will happen where we can again begin to go real rather than virtual. Any questions?
What dates do you have for next year?
Christine, we really didn't type.
September 13th through 15th, I believe. It's actually in your conference program. It's on the inside of the back page. You'll find the dates, and you'll also find the call for proposals. So we're already prepared to accept proposals from anyone who would like to present next year or has suggestions for things you'd like to see. Okay, any other questions for Mark? Lauren, is there anything you wanted to add?
I would just say that if you sent in a proposal last year, and obviously since we had to do this digitally instead of in person, please feel free to resend us that proposal. We would be more than happy to look at it again and hopefully be able to accommodate you in 2021.
Great, thank you. And next on the agenda, we would like to announce our new registered historian. So Sandra, are you ready?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We have 2 new registered historians this year. Let me grab my papers. Okay, our first applicant is Doris J. Gearing, a Region 4 Town of Canaan historian. She's been a teacher of history for 37 years at the Chatham High School and was appointed historian for Canaan in 2017. And our second applicant was...
Can you turn on your monitor, Sandy?
Oh, hang on. Let me see.
There she is.
Can you hear me? Oh, there you go. Okay. Technology. Our second applicant was James W. Maxwell. He's a retired commissioner of public works for the city of New Rochelle. Completed 35 years of municipal public service. He's currently a local firefighter for the Thornwood Volunteer Fire Department. And his interest in history goes back 20 years. James is from the town of Mount Pleasant in Region 3. So congratulations to both Doris and James.
Woo! Virtual claps and congratulations to both of you. We're welcome. We're grateful to have you as our newest registered historian. So welcome, welcome. And so next, are we ready to announce the election results, Matt? Let me just get a quick update, make sure nothing has changed. The numbers have gone up slightly, Matt, so let me put this in a chat to you. Okay. All right, and Matt, let me find you so I can spotlight you. Oh, Matt, are you with us?
Yeah, go ahead.
Turn on your video. There we go. Okay.
All right. So we had 41 votes for the trustees. They were all yes to the 3 we nominated. 40 for the budget, and they were all yes. So both carried. Congratulations to Mark and Babette on their 2 more years of working with us. And congratulations to Mary for joining the board. We look forward to working for you. Thank you to everyone that voted in this kind of weird circumstance. We appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. And we are way over time, so I'm going to cut my president's message short. But I do have to offer many, many thanks. And let me just put these up on my screen so I don't forget anybody here. So as Matt said earlier, this really has been a challenging year for us. You know, we had the new board that took off January 1st, and even before that, we started to work to ensure that we would have the conference in place in Oswego for this month, and spent some of our very first time in office preparing the call for proposals and starting to seek out vendors and advertisers, and we're having a pretty good time of things before we had to cancel the conference. We also had, appointed a number of committees, and we're in the process of adding additional committee members, and of course much of that committee work has been cut short. But, as Matt said, the board and the program committee that we've been working with this year has been amazing. And I hope you all will recognize the work that they've put in for you this year, because it has been quite a challenge as we've moved to adapt to this virtual environment. And so I want to recognize, first of all, our board members, First Vice President Matthew Ertz. And Matt, you have been amazing, and I keep saying this. Matt is the type of person who likes to hang in the shadows. He's a worker bee. He'll do anything you ask. But he, when we joke about him becoming president, which we're not joking, but he always says that he's not, he doesn't want to be the leader. But Matt, you stepped up and you led this virtual conference, and we would not be here today if it weren't for the work that Matt did in leading this effort. So Matt, thank you very much. Our other officers are Second Vice President Ray Lefevre, whom you just heard from, and Ray has been doing a yeoman's job in keeping our membership up to date, helping us transition to our new membership management system, and helping to manage the communications with members and with our membership committee and our regional coordinators. So thank you, Ray. Treasurer Zach Studentroth, who also this is his first year as treasurer, and he had to adapt right away to this new online membership management system that we're using, and Zach's done a great job. I think he's been very thoughtful in putting together the budget that you just approved, so thank you, Matt. And always our Secretary Will Tatum. He's the one behind the scenes, keeping the minutes, keeping us all in order, keeping me in order, making sure our meetings get scheduled. And so, Will, you've been there for me, and so thank you. The rest of our trustees, John Scher, Lauren Roberts, Julie Madlin, Samantha Hall-Saladino, Mark Slozak, Kathy Wimmett, Babette Huber. They have been in meetings. We've been meeting more frequently this year than we normally would because of this, and they have all stepped up. And Samantha, I want to call you out, because when it came time to get our program ready for the conference, Sam stepped right up, volunteered, Julie too, to get that program in line for you. And I think it looks beautiful. It was a fantastic undertaking, so we're very, very grateful for that. And then your program committee for this year, Kelly Farquhar, Michelle Finn, Lauren Roberts, John Shear, Mark Slozak, and of course, Matt. They really jumped on this and, ran with this idea of converting this conference to a virtual conference, and helped to get all the presenters that you've seen over the past 2 days. And so kudos to them. So, to our entire board and our program committee, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. This would not have been possible without you. So thank you. I also want to point out that Cornell University is normally one of the vendors at our our in-person conference. It's getting late and I'm getting tired. And they have agreed to support us by offering a discount to you. So some of you may have already received an email from them. If not, you just need to go to their virtual booth and enter your discount code of 09EXP40. And we will send an email out later with this, but it's at cornellpress.cornell.edu/RAOUR-APHNYS-2020-books-on display, and it will bring you to the page that they set up for us, and you can order and get your 40% discount off their books. So please support them as they have always supported us. And I'm going to skip over. You'll be hearing much more in coming months about our new Wild Apricot membership management system. We're very excited about this because it makes the back end work of managing membership much easier. It allows us to send automatic emails, and it allows you to pay your membership and your conference registrations by credit card. And we know that several local governments have been asking for that. We also soon will be transitioning our old website to this new site. At that point, you will be able to use the old address, which is aphnys.org. Right now, if you want to get to this new site, it's aphnys.wildapricot.org. We are keeping the old site active until we get all of the content moved over to there. But this is what you will see when you go to the new APHNYS webpage.
And Christine, I just made a slight change. You probably saw Find a Historian. I just added that like 30 minutes.
Oh, look at that. How about that? Good for you, Ray. See, so everyone's working behind the scenes all the time.
So I'm hoping we'll find a more sophisticated way to do it. Right now, it's just a PDF, but at least it's there. And it already needs correcting, but I'll do it in a few days. Excellent.
Thank you, Ray. See, always on top of things. So thank you for that. And with that, I have a lot more I could share with you, but you've heard me talk enough. And so if there are any questions, we're happy to
I would make a comment because some people said it in the chat. Kudos to you, Christine. This is a hard way to come into this new job. You come in here and bam, we get a pandemic. But we've been very impressed with how you've kind of kept us moving and kept everything going, you know, with everything else you've got going on in your life. So kudos to you, Christine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted to be able to work with this group. You're my lifeline as a historian, so thank you.
There is a question from Janine about going forward when we're able to meet in person, will there be some mechanism in place to continue the virtual element of the conference?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking that. The short answer is yes. We're looking into all of the options to do that. You know, we of course know that many of us value the opportunity to meet in person, and so we will plan our in-person meetings, but we are looking for ways to offer virtual options as well. We know that it's difficult for some of our members to travel, and we've seen that this conference has been so successful. We had more people registered for the virtual conference than we had registered for last year's conference. So we know that there's demand out there. You know, unfortunately, we probably won't be able to make it free in the future, but, you know, we'll try to keep registration rates reasonable and allow more people to participate. So it's something your board will be working on over the next few months. So thank you for that question. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, well, we will exercise a motion to adjourn. Would someone?
So moved.
Who was that?
Ray.
Okay. Is our usual adjourner in the audience? We don't want to.
I thought it was me.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table from Ray to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Matt Ertz,
I'll second
that motion.
Okay.
Dueling seconds from Matt Ertz and Mark Slosik. Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we are adjourned, and I will leave this meeting open for a little while longer. If anyone would like to just stay and chat, you're welcome to do so. So thank you all. We're grateful for your participation.
Thank you. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.